Kia ora koutou, I'm Olivia Garelja from Creative Northland, and here I am in Mark Kelly's amazing studio with his new initiative called Northland Artists Conversation.
That's right.
So Mark,
Yes.
tell me a little bit about your initiative and how you came about it.
So the whole idea for this came out in July 2021. I met Andrew Mackenzie through the Plunge comic book convention that gets held once a year at 116. Andrew and I had never worked together, but we worked incredibly well together on the day, enjoyed the process of what we did, and we sort of decided that it would be cool. We'll keep in touch and see how things go. The people that we interviewed on the day at the Plunge Comic Book Expo, we got some really, really good feedback about, oh man, it was really, really good. You made us feel at all at ease. And then some other feedback came through saying, you should start a podcast. I was like, I like podcasts, but I've never really thought about it. So I started doing a little bit of research, started diving deep into the sort of things you need for a podcast. And it was like equipment and, all the different requirements. I then got back in touch with Andrew a couple months later, brought him into the studio because this is their 5 Elements Media studio, which is my company. And we just sort of sat down and started talking, and he was fully on board straight away. He was like, this is a great idea. Love the initiative. Let's go. We sort of soon realized that we needed a little bit more technical assistance. And he got his friend, Rocky Stevenson, involved. Rocky is the editor that's actually behind all of this today. And then, we went through a few hiccups initially. We had some gear requirements that we needed to get that we hadn't accounted for, figuring out the cabling, the logistics. In the back end myself, I was doing a lot of work on looking at how you promote a podcast, how you start a podcast, identifying markers and information, how you have to upload podcasts. Because I'm sure much like everyone else, I originally thought that you would shoot a video and upload it to YouTube, and you would shoot a podcast and just upload it to wherever you want. It's actually not that simple. There's a lot of work that has to go on behind in terms of setup and getting like various accounts and like buying the rights to make your life easy. So once we did that, we went through, we had a couple of hiccups. We had some technical issues. COVID struck us as well. So for pretty much February and March, both myself and Andrew had COVID. It went through his family first, and then I got it. It went through my family. So, we then got to April, and things were good. We recorded our first introduction piece, launched it on the 1st of May, had the piece from the Northern Advocate, and it's just been all go since then. It's all go.
So tell me a little bit about this studio, the kind of equipment you've had to research into, and how do you know what stuff you need for those out there who may be
absolutely
just interested?
So when I was doing researching of the different gear requirements, there were a few things that I kind of came across. So people that listen to audio podcasts, what they may not know is the audio is usually recorded in like a small space. So a lot of people that when they start out, they'll actually record it in a closet or a wardrobe because it's a very small space. Sound doesn't move around a lot. So we wanted to actually not do just audio. We wanted video as well. And that tip came from a friend of mine, local writer, Michael Boter. He suggested, no, you can't do just audio. You have to do video as well. So what we do is we run Canon cameras, Canon DSLR cameras, which you can pick up from Harvey Norman's or Noel Leeming's or anywhere like that. We run them with kit lenses as well, so they're not even anything specific. We do run sort of the higher end of the consumer model, which is the 90D. I think, they're around about $2,000. So, it's a bit of money. Now, we figured out all the technical requirements of the cameras because they cut off video recording after, 29 minutes and 30 seconds? It's something like that. So we do our recordings in blocks. Next most important thing was audio. Now, you can use something like a handheld microphone. That's completely fine. And a lot of companies out there do some really, really good introductory products. You can pick them up from the Rock Shop or Music Works and stuff like that. They're really, really affordable. I went with these particular microphones because these are often referred to as the Joe Rogan microphone, because they're the ones that people kind of see, and they associate Joe Rogan as being like the absolute top end of podcasts. These microphones are about $1,000 each.
Wow. Hopefully they make my voice sound better.
The general consensus sort of seems to be your voice sounds pretty good. And then, all of that information has got to be fed into different interfaces into the computer. So we run the audio into what's called a cloud lifter, which cleans up the audio and boosts it. We then run that all into a audio interface, which then goes into the computer. The cameras run into a video interface, which also then runs into the computer as well. The computer itself it's a really, really powerful gaming PC. The reason that I chose to do that was so, you've got a high-end graphics card. So when you render your video, so it's when you take your audio files and your video files and have them together, you render everything down. So that way it's one complete video file. So if people go through and watch the first release that we did, which was the Northland Artists Conversation introduction, there's probably about 10 or 15 hours work behind doing all of that as well. We then had to move to lighting because, being in a dark, dank studio with one light on the ceiling just doesn't cut it. I went for a brand called Godox, who are probably one of the more premium brands. So we've got two little lights that will do key lighting for people. Sorry, I think I knocked the microphone. Do key lighting for us, and then we've got the main light that kind of lights up the whole background. And then it's all about sort of your presentation and making sure that what people see looks professional. So, we've got little idiosyncratic things that I just like.
So cool.
So I think behind me I've got a Lego Iron Man, because I love Iron Man. It's Marvel. And then I've got Darth Tater because I love Star Wars and it was one of my son's first toys. And then behind you we've got some books, and then I've got some artwork that a friend gave me. So yeah, there's just a few different bits and pieces. And then it's all about making sure that what people see and hear is of a professional quality and standard. So that's why I've spent about 30 grand getting this all up to a standard where it's going to look good, where it'll sound great, and where it's also easy for people, the editors and the producers, to be able to work with the gear and be able to get a really quick turnaround as well. So, yeah.
So who are you looking to engage with, and what platform can we kind of find you on?
So engagement is anyone that's got a creative output. That's the short answer. The longer answer is that when you think of the word artist, a lot of people will associate your musicians, your actors, your painters, right, or writers, because they tend to be the more common of the formats, right? But I'm currently in the process of trying to get a street graffiti artist from Kaitaia. We're in the process of trying to get Jesse Rose, for example. We've had Aki Fukuoka, who we interviewed last week. Now, in terms of Northland, no one will have a clue who she is. She's a graphic illustrator that illustrates a particular kids series called Billy B. Brown, I think it is. And those books have sold over 5 million copies worldwide.
Wow.
Now, no one's heard of her. She lives in Whangarei. And she was absolutely amazing to sit down and chat with. And just hearing her journey and what she did and all of the things that she went through to get to where she is now. So it doesn't matter who you are. We want to have a talk with you. We want to sit down and have a conversation. It's not an interview. And I think that's the important thing to sort of get across to people is I'm not going to send you a list of questions. Like, here's 20 questions. We're going to talk about these for an hour or half an hour or however long. We cover 4 topics. And they're all artist-centric. They're very specific to that. It's the background of the artist. So we want to know a little bit about who that person is, where they came from, because, for some people they're going to have like a lot more life experience than others, so it's kind of cool to hear that. We want to know a bit about their influences, like what other artists have inspired them. Are they from the same medium, or they're from different mediums? Are they local or international? Are they alive, or have they passed on? We want to talk about their journey through their medium, because not everyone started in the same place where they currently are, right? So obviously I'm doing a podcast now. That's my creative output. But my original background is being as an actor and in music, right? So then, if we were to do this and swap questions, we would sort of talk about that. And then the fourth part is probably one of the more important pieces, and that is, what have you got coming up? Right? Because as an artist, you want to be able to have the opportunity to talk about, have I got an exhibition? Have I got an event coming up? Am I doing a play, or have I got a concert? Is there anything that people should know about me that I have coming up soon? And it doesn't matter if it's like now, a month, 2 months down the track. What we'll do is we will actually schedule that podcast to be released to coincide within a week of the event that you've got coming up. Where people can find us, they're going to be able to find us on YouTube. That's where we've had the most success so far, is through YouTube. We've had a lot of views already, and people have started subscribing, which is great. That's for your video. For your audio, we're going to go through your usual. We're going to do Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. They're sort of the three big main players in the podcasting space. So we're going to make sure that we cover all of those bases as well. Yeah.
Fantastic. So in terms of some creatives who may be artists, I understand if you're in drama, you've got to be way more confident doing this type of thing. Yeah,
absolutely.
So how are you going to break down those barriers for some people that are totally nervous about even talking about their work?
So that's a really great question, because I'll reference Aki again, because hers was such an interesting story. She reached out to us based on the article that came out of The Advocate, which was really, really cool. She said she wanted to get involved, and we thought, man, what a great get for a small up-and-coming project, to be able to have someone that's actually internationally well-known, but not well-known at the same time. And she was like, I'm going to be nervous and blah, 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 blah. So all I did for her is I asked her some general questions, and it was just off to the races. Yeah. She was just going for it, and it was just like, this is amazing. If all podcasts are like this, I'm going to have a complete blast. But, it's different with every person, and we're all individuals. So for me, it's about making sure that everyone feels comfortable right from the word go. So sometimes it's the small things, like, people will turn up, and then we'll all just sit down and talk for like half an hour. We won't even go into the studio. We'll just sit down and chat. And what that chat does, that gives me an opportunity to sort of gauge how that person's feeling. Because not everyone's going to be super confident and like, yeah, I'm willing to talk. Some people are going to be quite shy and reserved. And it's about how I'm not an interviewer. I guess I'm just the gatherer of information. It's about how I can make that person feel comfortable enough to get them to open up and talk about themselves more. Because often it can be really hard to talk about yourself. But if you're talking about someone in their creative context, it can often be easy to share. And being an artist myself, I at least have a point of reference straight away. So if people are nervous, you have... Yeah, absolutely, you can be, but there's no reason to be. We're not big ogres or anything like that. What we do is we just want to help people get their product out to as broad an audience as possible. That's all we're wanting to do.
So in terms of product, can artists bring in their artwork to maybe put on here?
Sure. There's
in the background of audio.
I have no limitations. If someone wants us, if we've got a musician, for example, and they've got, I've got this really cool song coming up, and we can chuck it into the audio, absolutely. If someone's got some art, and if they want to email us images, we can put it in as well. It's, the sky's the limit, really.
Fantastic.
There's not much that we can't do, and it's not about just having people come into the studio as well. We're also set up to be able to do remote as well. So we're set up through Zoom. So, people that can't come to us but really want to get involved, we can say, cool, hey, here's the Zoom link.
Yeah.
All you need is like your phone, and maybe a decent set of headphones, or even just like the ones you get that come with phones, and we can just do an interview that way. We can do a conversation that way, because that's what it's all about, is using all of the digital technology that we have to be able to capture as wide a group as possible. So distance need not be a constraint. It doesn't have to be. We demonstrated that last couple of years, so it doesn't have to be now. So by making everything available, and by removing as many barriers as possible, it's how we hope to capture as many artists as possible.
How do you think this is actually going to transform Te Tai Tokerau and the creative community? Like, do you have a vision of why you're so passionate to support creatives?
Being a creative myself, I'd have loved to have had this like 10 years ago. I think this would have been really, really cool. For Te Tai Tokerau, what I've found is that it can be very disconnected. It can very much be, here's a pocket of artists here, here's a pocket of artists here, here's some over here. Sometimes they talk, sometimes they don't, but what I essentially want to do is unify all of the different art forms and have someone who's that might be a glassblower, for example, go, man, I just thought it was dudes with spray cans, or have someone that's doing something really interesting and unique with food go, I just learned something really, really cool about this opera singer, for example, and just, having everyone learn and let the knowledge flow freely. So, we remove the walls and the barriers of like, well, we have these type of artists over here and they're a little bit more elite, and we have these artists here and it's sort of a bit more common, and we have these ones over here and we don't really talk about them that much. Why can't we just treat every artist the same and give them and afford them the same luxuries and opportunities, which is the whole point of all of this.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So good. How can your generic artist just get in touch with you? What's the best process?
Okay, so the best way people can get in touch with us is to just simply give us an email, or visit us through our Facebook. So the email is hello@northlandartistsconversation.co.nz. Editor Rocky will put the graphic up with that as well, in case people miss that. No, don't shake your head. Yes, you will. And then through Facebook, it is Northland Artists Conversation as well. Good thing is with all of the platforms, it is all Northland Artists Conversation. Whole lot. You just search by that and you're bound to find us.
Do you have a barrier cutoff, or maybe Kaiwaka up, or
Te Tai Tokerau.
Te Tai Tokerau?
That's the barrier.
Fantastic.
It's not a barrier. That's a horrible word. No. That essentially that's the line of.
I'm probably thinking relating more to councils in terms of
funding
or all that stuff, but
I guess wherever Northland starts versus Auckland.
Fantastic.
Because it's important that we explore and celebrate the artists that we have in here, but also embrace artists that are coming into the region as well.
Absolutely.
So not just the people that live here and are here 24/7. We know that there are going to be some people that are going to be a little bit hesitant and reluctant at first. So when we started figuring out who's going to get involved, what we did is I reached out to really high profile people right from the word go, because I was like, I want to get a series of high profile guests so people can go, okay, cool, there is a legitimacy to this project that we may not have anticipated. So having Aki on with everything that she's accomplished, huge get. So we are looking for a lot of artists. This week alone, we've got 3 conversations we're going to be filming. So tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday, and they're all varied people, which is really, really cool. I've got another illustrator tomorrow, and then I've got an artist on Thursday. Then we've got someone else on Wednesday as well who's got a really cool background. They'll get to talk about it, which is quite nice. And then what we'll be doing is sort of the format for us will be each fortnight we're going to do recording. So this is the fortnight of recording. Next week is the fortnight of the week of editing. So yeah, a lot of work. So if I'll stare down the camera. If you're interested and you like what you hear and you really want to be a part, the best thing you can do is to not only subscribe, but also get involved as well. Use us as a tool to help promote your product and what you do. That is what we're here for. We are here to help and serve the artistic community of Te Tai Tokoro. Cool.
Love it. And while I was checking out the studio before,
Sure.
This book, The
Yes.
Pathway of the Stars.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
I believe a local author as well. I just happened to be at the secondhand bookstore just buying some books, the bookstore in Carmo, and I instantly saw it and I went, yeah, that's some really cool. I just like the colouring and the concept, and then just kind of worked my way through it. But yeah, it's all, everything in here is just little idiosyncratic quirks that I have.
May have to borrow that one.
Okay, deal.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for your time and letting me into your private world of the studio and your new kind of business venture, I guess.
Absolutely. So, I mean, you're obviously a creative person yourself, right?
Yes.
Now, your creative output is?
It's a little bit of everything. So, I like to call myself a bit of a schizophrenic creative, I guess.
Jack of all trades, master
creative,
of none?
Yeah, like today
Okay.
I was just chopping wood basically, so there's
Sure.
a bit of a creative knack to doing that, I guess. But from face painting, illustrating, photography,
Yep.
painting, sculpture, glass stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question then. What, as an artist yourself, what value would you see in something like this?
I think you raised some really good points previously. It's about uniting Te Tai Tokerau and bringing out artists from their studio and allowing them a platform to celebrate what they do. And it's something that I think everyone's looking into creatives a lot differently now, and really understanding the process it takes for a creative to get to the end outcome, but the level of value and IP that's being recognised. And I think this conversation and where this is going to go in the future is just going to start, I think, networking a lot of creatives within Te Tai Tokerau and raising the profile of the different disciplines that make up our sector, and how that can link into, I think, other areas within the sector in terms of engineering, or the way that creatives just think about being creative differently, and how other workplaces could potentially bring creatives into their sector, now understanding the value that that creative level of thinking can bring.
And as someone who works for Creative Northland, because that's why we're here today, this is obviously a profile piece, how can people reach out to Creative Northland, and does everyone know what Creative Northland actually does? I will admit, when we sat down a few weeks ago, I had a very narrow vision and a narrow scope of what I thought Creative Northland did. And obviously, after we talked, my knowledge had grown exponentially. So use this as an opportunity to talk about Creative Northland as a whole, so that way when you share it, and we'll share it, that people go, oh, okay, right, they do this. I thought it was just X, where it's actually X, Y, and Z.
So coming up to Te Tai Tokerau about 4.5, 5 years ago, I had no idea these kind of arts, creatives, advocacies kind of existed. So coming to Whangarei, and I heard about Creative Northland, I was like, oh my God, exactly. What do they do?
Yeah.
How can this one kind of organisation be an advocate for every creative in Te Tai Tokerau? And so coming into the role and really understanding the opportunities that lie ahead of us in Te Tai Tokerau, and again, uniting so many different creative disciplines to actually say, hey, there's funding out there for your idea. if you need advice or about your idea, we can also give you that as well. We also offer free equipment for your event that you may have. There's different ways in which we can supplement income or help people just think about being creative differently and take their idea to the next level. So we're really an advocacy there for just to talk about whatever is going on in that person's life around their creative idea, whatever well-being, and we're there just to help. Most of the inquiries we get are about funding and about also being, as a creative, they have never really reached out to understand what advocacy or people are around there to support them, but to say, hey, I have this creative idea, or I have this exhibition coming up and I need help with pricing my artwork, or what's the best way to frame my work or display it. How do I market? How do I create a poster for my exhibition? All of these things. So it's just amazing being in the field and being able to help so many people in so many different ways. Like, I'm probably not even talking about all of them, but definitely funding and Te Tai Tokoa and networking and connecting creatives, because every creative it's like human being, we're all unique and in our certain ways, but it's be able to identify the strengths of someone and also maybe the weaknesses and joining them together.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So in terms of Creative Northland as a whole, how do people find you?
The best way for anyone out there to find us and just have a chat is really to either walk in. We are situated down by the men's shed and the old railway station, basically.
Oh, yep. I know where that is. Yep.
Past the mobile, just come down there.
Yep.
Hopefully you can get a free car park if there's one available. Or best thing to make an appointment either via Facebook or via our email. We've got all our emails on the website. And you can talk to one of the advisors or our marketing person or our intern.
Nice. So, people have obviously got quite a few options to be able to sort of access you as well. If they were wanting to sort of sit down and get like a one-on-one time, email would be best?
Yeah, just to organise a time, because we're sometimes out within the community.
Yeah.
But the great thing in Te Tai Tokoa and Creative Northland, we've got an advisor in the far north,
Brilliant.
Melanie.
Yes.
So she's based up in Kirikiri. So that's a fantastic avenue just to reach out to those in the more rural parts of Northland.
Excellent. Now, much like how the Northland Artists Conversation has a broad scope of artists, how broad is Creative Northland's scope?
Pretty broad in terms of being a high-end professional creative to being a real grassroots, hey, I may need some money for some materials to see if this is an avenue I want to go down, or there's a competition I need some support with.
Sure, okay.
So really, really broad.
Okay, and what about artistic endeavours as a whole?
Oh, in what way?
So obviously the podcast itself will be touching on everyone, like for chefs, for example.
Yeah.
Is that something that you would look at,
We would be so open for a conversation around that.
Yeah.
It's really to showcase creativity across all sectors.
Excellent. Okay, so again, your scope is probably as broad as ours, which is great. So, look, fantastic.
And I think a lot of, just going back to Creative Northland, a lot of what we do, it's around creating access and participation for the communities who aren't creative to actually get involved. So a lot of our mahis around the transfer of knowledge that could happen amongst all our creatives up here, because we're so talented. There's so many creatives per almost, kilometre up here. It's insane.
A transfer of knowledge is a great saying. It's very, very key. Very key. And it's really, really good. That's obviously what we're trying to do as well, is we want to share the knowledge. So that transfer of knowledge, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Knowledge is power. But yes. Cool. Thank you so much, Mark, for meeting with me today, which is Monday, public holiday in the afternoon. Queen's birthday. Happy birthday, Queen. And I just look really forward to seeing where this all goes and following you guys online. Thank you very much. We appreciate the support from Creative Northland as well. And we're going to try and be here for as long as we can. The more support, the more we grow. Follow these guys, everyone. Subscribe. Hell yeah. Thank you. All right. Have a great week, everyone.